Today's presentation is on civil rights, which is an annual training requirement for all child nutrition staff. The purpose of civil rights training is to inform, educate, and support all staff who interact with child nutrition programs. This training will cover USDA civil rights requirements, staff responsibilities, and resources and information available to assist staff in carrying out their civil rights responsibilities. First, we will discuss public notification systems. This is the process by which SFAs notify potential applicants of the availability of meals. Second, we will discuss civil rights issues related to the customer service practice. This could occur anywhere in the continuum of participation, from applicants turning in a free and reduced price meal application to overt identification of meal status in the lunch line. Third, we will cover the requirement to collect racial and ethnic data and why this information is collected. Fourth, we will briefly touch on issues of accommodating children with special dietary needs. This is not a complete special dietary needs presentation, but will cover the topic from the lens of ensuring equal access. Fifth, what should an SFA do if they receive a complaint alleging discrimination in the school nutrition programs from a student or parent? Next, we will discuss what an SFA should do if there are areas of noncompliance and how to handle reporting of compliance issues. And finally, we will discuss language assistance requirements. Civil rights laws. Title VI Civil Rights Act of 1964 prohibits discrimination based on race, color, sex, national origin, including persons with limited English proficiency. Title IX of the Education Amendments of 1972 prohibits discrimination based on sex under any education program or activity that is receiving federal financial assistance. Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act of 1973 prohibits discrimination based on disability. Civil rights laws continued. Americans with Disabilities Act of 1990 prohibits discrimination based on disability in all services, programs, and activities provided to the public by state and local governments, except public transportation services. Age Discrimination Act of 1975 prohibits discrimination based on age in programs or activities receiving federal financial assistance. Civil Rights Restoration Act of 1987 prohibits discrimination based on race, color, and national origin. What is discrimination? Discrimination is defined as different treatment which makes a distinction of one person or group, either intentionally, by neglect, or by actions or lack of actions based on the protected classes. Examples of discrimination include giving one group or type of participants larger or extra helpings of food, separating genders, failing to provide children with a dietary disability accommodating meals, failing to provide program information to all potential program applicants. Protected classes in the child nutrition program are race, age, color, sex, national origin, and disability. Civil rights training. Civil rights training is required annually for all staff. This includes full-time, part-time, temporary staff, central office and site staff, and volunteers. Documentation for civil rights training must be maintained for 3 years plus the current year. Documentation must include sign-in sheets, agendas, and dates and times of all training. All civil rights training should be tracked on a training tracking tool. Civil rights training requirements. Civil rights training subject matter must include the following: collection and use of data, effective public notification systems, compliant procedures, compliance review techniques, resolution of noncompliance, requirements for all accommodations of persons with disabilities, requirements for language assistance, conflict resolution, and customer service. Public notification. Purpose. All food and nutrition services assistance programs must include a public notification system. The purpose of public notification is to inform applicants, participants, and potentially eligible persons of the program availability, program rights and responsibilities, the policy of non-discrimination, and the procedure for filing a complaint. Through public outreach, SFAs are trying to ensure program access to as many potential participants as possible. Public notification must include information regarding eligibility, benefits and services, program availability, including hours and locations, applicant rights and responsibilities, procedures for filing a complaint, non-discrimination policies, and any program changes. Public notification methods. Schools must notify the public annually of their participation in the program. Notification to applicants and participants must include information regarding program availability, program rights and responsibilities, the procedure for filing a complaint, and the policy of non-discrimination. The first method is public release. Schools must take specific actions to inform the public of their program rights and responsibilities and the steps necessary for participation in the program. They must also display the And Justice for All poster. This poster must be in the correct size of 11 by 17, and it must be placed in a prominent location where it is visible to all participants in the program. The poster provides the USDA address and phone numbers that the public can use to file a complaint if they think their civil rights have been violated. Applicants and participants must be advised of their right to file a discrimination complaint, how to file a complaint, and the complaint procedures. The non-discrimination statement must be provided on all informational materials, including websites used by the school to inform the public about F&S programs. Different notification methods include internet and computer-based applications, the newspaper, radio and television, letters and brochures, and bulletins. Be sure to convey the message of equal opportunity in photos and other graphics that are used to promote program information to applicants or participants. Public notification, public release to the media. The media release must be provided at or near the beginning of the school year to local news media, the unemployment office, and to any major employers contemplating layoffs in the area. The media release must include the eligibility criteria for free and reduced meal prices. For CEP schools, the media release should inform the public that school meals will be free to all enrolled students. It is at the discretion of the media if they decide to publish the media release. Public notification letter to households. Another method of public notification is informational letters that inform households of program availability. Informational letters must be distributed by schools at the beginning of the school year by mail, email, or in person. Letters cannot be sent out at the end of the school year for the upcoming school year. The And Justice for All poster. All SFAs must prominently display the USDA non-discrimination poster And Justice for All. The poster must be 11 by 17 in size. Posters should be displayed in each school and in a location that is easily visible to the students and the public in the food service area. The Non-Discrimination Statement. The USDA Non-Discrimination Statement must be included on all forms of communication and program materials. Program materials include all public information and education. The long version of the Non-Discrimination Statement is required on all documents pertaining to student eligibility, such as prototype letters to the households, verification, and direct certification. The long version of the Non-Discrimination Statement should also be used whenever possible or where space permits. The short version of the Non-Discrimination Statement can be used if the document is too small and there is limited space, such as on menus or nutrition posters. If using the short version of the Non-Discrimination Statement, a 9-point font is required. This is the long version of the Non-Discrimination Statement. Non-Discrimination Statement printing requirements. There are a couple of requirements when printing the Non-Discrimination Statement. The first printing requirement is that the wording for either statement cannot be changed. The second printing requirement is that the print size cannot be smaller than the text of the material. Also note that in auditory presentations, such as public service announcement, the shortened version may also be used. Non-discrimination statement materials. The non-discrimination statement is required on any program materials that mention the programs to the public. These materials may include advertisements, publications, letters, enrollment forms, broadcasts, and school websites. Items that do not require the non-discrimination statement to be printed or incentive items such as cups, buttons, magnets, and pins due to the impractical size. Customer service during meal service. Customer service is defined as effectively communicating with customers, responding to the customer's needs, valuing the customer's worth, and instilling excellence through courtesy, confidence, and enthusiasm. Treating customers with respect and dignity through excellent customer service saves you time and minimizes opportunities for complaints and angry customers. All students must be allowed equal opportunities to participate in the child nutrition programs, regardless of race, color, national origin, sex, age, or disability. All participants of the child nutrition program must be treated in the same manner. In order to reduce the risk of a civil rights discrimination complaint, ask yourself the following questions each time a participant comes to your program for services. Am I treating this person in the same manner I treat others? Have I given this person the opportunity to ask questions? Have I provided the person with the information he or she needs to make necessary decisions? Customer service meal service. During meal service, all students within the same grade grouping must be offered the same menu selection regardless of their eligibility, sex, national origin, race, color, age, or disability. All varieties and selections must be made available to all students within the same grade grouping. In the examples provided, it would be discrimination to provide high school football players with bigger scoops of food or to save certain food items for a specific group. Customer service denial of meals. USDA policy prohibits the denial of meals as a disciplinary action against any student who is enrolled in a school that participates in the child nutrition program. It also prohibits requiring a child to work for or earn their meal. Customer service, overt identification. Identifying information must not be used for any purpose other than determining and verifying eligibility for free or reduced price meals. Overt identification should be considered in different situations beyond the application process. This includes at the point of service where other students may see eligibility statuses on the cashier computer screen, or, for example, when special functions take place that require alternate meal service types, such as field trips or class parties. In these instances, no overt identification of meals should occur. Conflict resolution. In no way is an SFA to impede with a customer's right to file a civil rights complaint. However, most conflicts are easily resolved by using appropriate tools. Conflict resolution consists of useful skills to assist with the solution of complaints. These skills include 1. Using a win-win approach. Change the conflict from an attack to cooperation and avoid the desire to blame. 2. Use a creative response. Turn problems into possibilities to improve the situation. 3. Demonstrate empathy. Help others feel that they are understood by being an active listener. 4. Appropriate assertiveness. State your case without arousing the defenses of another person. Remember to use I statements to communicate your feelings directly. 5. Manage emotions. Stick strictly to the facts of the complaint and communicate your feelings directly. 6. Have a willingness to resolve. Identify barriers to a resolution and overcome those barriers. Avoid repeating the situation. If a complainant persists with their complaint, direct them to file their complaint with USDA's Office of Civil Rights. LEP Language Assistance. Limited English proficiency, or those individuals who do not speak English as their primary language and who have limited ability to read, speak, write, or understand English. SFAs must take reasonable steps to assure meaningful access to the information and services they provide to individuals with LEP. Reasonable steps would include an evaluation of the following factors: the number or proportion of LEP persons to be served or likely to be encountered, the frequency with which LEP individuals come in contact with the program, the nature and importance of the program activity or service provided to the program to people's lives, the resources that are available and the cost to provide these services. A shortage of resources or anticipated cost to provide these services to individuals with LEP do not eliminate the requirement to do so. SFAs must explore the most cost-effective means of delivering services and information to people with LEP. Language translations. All child nutrition program information should be provided in the necessary language for all participants and their families. For example, enrollment forms, menus, brochures, and letters should be provided in the necessary language for all participants and their families. Language interpreters. Language interpreters can be helpful when dealing with someone with limited English proficiency. Volunteers may be used, but they should understand the ethics required when using an interpreter. For example, a Spanish teacher could assist a household in completing a meal application, but would need to be trained on the importance of keeping all information confidential. Also, children should not be used as interpreters. Racial and ethnic data. All schools that participate in a USDA child nutrition program must have a system to collect the racial and ethnic data of program participants in accordance with FNS Instruction 113-1. This data is used to determine the state's compliance with federal civil rights laws. USDA regulations state that respect for an individual dignity should guide the process and methods for collecting data on race and ethnicity. Therefore, self-identification or self-reporting is the preferred method of obtaining characteristic data. The collection of this information is strictly for statistical reporting requirements and has no effect on the determination of their eligibility to receive program benefits. This data must be maintained in a confidential file for 3 years plus the current year, and this information should be restricted to authorized school personnel and other authorized state and federal personnel when requested. Racial and ethnic data is used to determine how effectively your program is reaching potential eligible children and where outreach may be needed. Ethnicity and race categories. Ethnicity is broken down into 2 categories, Hispanic or Latino, and non-Hispanic or non-Latino. The racial categories include American Indian or Alaskan Native, Asian, Black or African American, Native Hawaiian or other Pacific Islander, and white. A person may identify as belonging to multiple racial categories. Accommodating persons with disabilities. Reasonable accommodations refer to ensuring that participants with a disability have physical access to programs and services, such as easily accessible entrances or restrooms. A school is required to provide food substitutions or modifications for a student with a dietary disability. A written medical statement completed and signed by a licensed physician, advanced practice nurse with prescriptive authority, or a physician assistant is required to be on file when the request falls outside of the meal pattern. Accommodating persons with disabilities, meal modifications. Meal pattern modifications within a meal pattern do not require a medical statement. Meal pattern modifications outside of the meal pattern do require a medical statement provided by a licensed medical provider. A licensed medical provider includes a medical doctor, physician's assistant, or a nurse practitioner. The medical statement must include information about the child's impairment and how it restricts the diet, an explanation of what must be done to accommodate the disability, and the foods to be omitted and the recommended alternatives. If the medical statement does not fully explain the modifications needed, the SFA should contact the guardian for additional information. As a reminder, receipt of clarification should not delay the modified diet. Right to file a complaint. Applicants and participants must be advised of their right to file a complaint, how to file a complaint, and complaint procedures. Any person who believes they have been discriminated against based on the protected classes has the right to file a complaint within 180 days of the alleged discriminatory action. Forms of civil rights complaints. Complaints may be written, verbal, or observed. A complaint may also be anonymous. Anonymous complaints should be handled the same as any other complaint. If the complaint is verbal and the person alleging discrimination is not inclined to put the allegation in writing, the person to whom the complaint was made must write up the complaint on behalf of the complainant. Civil rights complaints Step 1. The first step is to document the complaint and make an effort to obtain the following information. 1. Name, address, and phone number of complainant. 2. Specified name and location of entity delivering the benefit or service. 3. The nature of the incident, action, or method of administration that led the complainant to feel discriminated against. 4. The basis on which the complainant feels discrimination. 5. The names, titles, business addresses, and phone numbers of persons who may have knowledge of the discriminatory action. 6. The dates during which the alleged discriminatory actions occurred, or, if continuing, the duration of such actions. All complaints should then be forwarded directly to USDA. Civil Rights Complaints, Step 2. The second step for civil rights complaints is to contact USDA. All verbal or written complaints must be forwarded to the Civil Rights Division of USDA Food and Nutrition Services within 3 days of receiving the complaint. Civil Rights Complaints, Step 3. The third step in civil rights complaints is to maintain documentation. All civil rights documentation should be kept at the central location and should be maintained for 3 years plus the current year. A few civil rights reminders include: 1. USDA Regional Office is responsible for the review of the state agencies. 2. The state agencies are responsible for the review of the school food service authorities. 3. State agencies must report any significant findings to USDA. 4. SFAs must receive a pre-approval visit to ensure compliance with civil rights before receiving federal funds. 5. Compliance is assessed through the administrative review. Here is an example of the discrimination complaint form. The complaint form must be available at all sites participating in the child nutrition program. When an individual wants to report a discrimination complaint, child nutrition staff should have as little involvement as possible with the complaint process. All staff must be trained on civil rights and this civil rights complaint form. Resolution of noncompliance. If noncompliance is indicated, a corrective action plan must be implemented to achieve voluntary compliance within 60 days. The corrective action plan should describe the agency's actions to be taken to resolve the noncompliance determined. If the corrective action is not achieved within 60 days, suspension of assistance or termination may result. Civil Rights Compliance Checklist. Here is your checklist for civil rights compliance. Civil rights written policy and complaint logs should be kept. Train all staff and volunteers annually. All staff should know CNP civil rights policies. Prominently display the And Justice for All poster. Collect and record racial ethnic data. Keep all records for 3 years plus the current year. Maintain civil rights complaint procedures and forms. Place non-discrimination statements on all printed materials mentioning the child nutrition programs. As a reminder, district policies regarding civil rights complaints should specify how civil rights compliance is handled for CNP separate from other programs. Here is a list of civil rights resources. This concludes our civil rights presentation.